Welcome, Thomas. How are you today?
I'm great, Ram. How are you?
I'm very happy to have you again on this podcast series. And you have been contributing and you have contributed many podcasts. So thank you for your contribution. So Thomas Valente is very well known in the project program management space. He has contributed to many books and many training. He has taught, he's a speaker, and he recently came back from Stockholm with a very big conference. So it's our privilege to have him here and learn from him and his wisdom over the period of time. So thank you, Thomas. Welcome again.
It was a nice time in Stockholm. I was there for the second time on this conference, Passion for Projects, and they had the 15th anniversary and a very good slate of speakers. And even the new managing director of PMI in Europe, Denis, he is presenting something on this conference which is also related to what we are talking about. He presented the MORE framework, the new
Oh,
framework by PMI, which is more taking a focus on values and how to extend the view of project management beyond the traditional iron triangle.
perfect.
So I recommend to everybody to look up this MORE framework. And I'm saying MORE because Denny taught it's not pronounced more, as you could think, but then this framework is available on the PMI webpage for free for everybody. And also there is a course going into much more detail, about 5 hours course, that you understand what the concepts behind this, because it is a huge extension of what PMI is presenting in the PMBOK guide and in other standards regarding what we are doing. So we see PMI shift.
Right. Thank you for sharing, Thomas. And so today's topic we have is benefit management. Benefit management for projects in action. So that's our topic. I do have a number of questions. We're going to talk about it. Benefit management in projects, programs, and maybe we can talk from the portfolio point of view. Given that I have been teaching PGMP, the program in the professional, and it is program, the standard for program management is talking heavily about benefit management, benefit identification, benefit management plan, benefit relation, benefit delivery, and then you transition and sustainment. So I think the topic, if somebody is interested to know more about benefit management, I highly recommend you to look into the standard for program management, 5th edition. So my first question, Thomas, many organizations still measure project success primarily by time, cost, scope. Why is benefit management becoming the more meaningful measure of success in modern organizations?
Yeah, if you look at what a project manager is concerned about, he's concerned about the how of a project. And this is a traditional triangle. You're planning, you have an approach, be it agile or hybrid or waterfall or whatever, and you have costs and scope and time parameters you are trying to control and you are using to measure. That's how you do things. And even PMI's talent triangle is saying this is how we work, way of working. And the second thing a project manager should be concerned about is the output, the product of his project, because always we have something that is tangible as a result of a project. So be it a piece of software or a new bridge or whatever. And this has to be developed according to quality requirements you have and to requirements the customer has. And still, this doesn't go away, the how and the what. And you should use the right how for the specific what you have. But what comes more into focus now is with benefits is the why. Why are we doing that? Why are we using that product and that we somehow produce? And that is the business value. Somebody gives an investment to the project, some funding, and they use up this funding to create a product which then is used to help the business to succeed in some aspect. And that's why you have normally a strategic business goal behind any project. Let's say you are developing a new accounting software, and then this should be increasing the transparency of where the money is, how the value is increased. So these are the three parameters the project manager should be concerned about. But normally, what we learn in the PMBOK guide and what we learned when we start a project, we are dealing with the how, because that's the important thing that you have to understand. But you have to understand it in a way that you are automatically using it. And then you have to look at the what and then the product, and that might be very specific to the industry you're in, to your customer, what they want to. Yeah, there might be a lot of constraints around regulations and how you have to build a car, what kind of things are concerning you. And well, for example, take a nuclear plant. Nobody is really doing that, but only a few are doing that, but they are very much experienced and know a lot about that. So why we are shifting now as a question is, and why benefits management becomes more meaningful, because benefits management is the how we, a project manager, can contribute to creating value. It's not his only the responsibility of the project manager to do that, because we will have a sponsor, an organization, and a strategy owner, and a business, a benefits owner, and so on. But the project manager takes more responsibility in this chain of value creation, and that's deliverables, what are not longer enough to guarantee that there will be a value out of it. Even if the project manager is concerned about that value, it's not even a guarantee. If all the others, the benefits owner, the sponsor, the organization, the operation, whatever, will achieve the value that is there. And yeah, I think this is the main thing. And maybe for our audience to understand my view on benefits, where are they located? Though the first thing is a project is still delivering a product, an output.
Yep.
There's something you can tangibly grasp often, you can measure. It's objective. If there's an output or not, you can say yes or no, and it's defined by the quality requirements, other requirements. So this output then is to be used by users in the business normally, like a software has to be used in an appropriate way. And for that, there is often necessary a second project or a part of the project, which is called organizational change management. You have to teach the guys how to use it, why to use it, and in the end, they have to have a buy-in. They have to really be able to like to use it because they understand it's also beneficial for them as users. So any ERP system, any software system, or let's say you give a hardware tool to somebody, and you have to train them how to use it, and then they gradually will use that hardware tool. So this is the second step, that you use that output together with the people who use it, and then you create an outcome, a capability that these people together with your output can change something in the business. And this is also very objective. You can see it if that capability is there, you can test it. But nevertheless, I have an example from Egypt, from a German company, and they built a power plant in Egypt. And that was a turnkey project. And one of the success criteria was our people in Egypt can use this power plant to create power, whatever. And this company put a lot of effort in training these guys and doing that. But they never achieved that goal because the Egyptians were never able to run this power plant. And it was not so much a training effort or what, they just didn't get it for cultural reasons. Because what we think in the Western world about what accountability is, what responsibility is, there is maybe in other cultures a different view on that. The German manufacturer or provider of this power plant, they had a big problem in fulfilling their contract. And the assumption was, okay, these are just humans. They have to be trained and educated and maybe taken by the hand and shown what to do. It was not possible. So they still relied on foreign staff to run that power plant. That's an example of how change management is important to create that outcome. Then you have the outcome, which can be seen and tested. And now this outcome is perceived by different stakeholders. They're looking at it. And this outcome, which is objective, becomes subjective and becomes a benefit. or a disbenefit. The benefit is the subjective view on an outcome. And if you have, and as such, you can test it. Is the benefit here or not here? So the benefit is created for one moment, and then it's there, and then the benefit is here. But what does the benefit do? How is the benefit related to value? The value is created by the benefit. So if you have a power plant, it's objective here, and it can be run. In the end, it's creating value by providing power to the people or the factories or whatever. And that's clearly a benefit for these people. On the other hand, the people who live maybe in the surroundings of the power plant, they observe some noise, pollution, whatever. For them, it's also a disbenefit. So it's a negative thing. So
Yep.
this outcome is neutral, but it could be a benefit or a disbenefit, depending on who looks at it at which time. And so this benefit creating value, the value is a power going out to the people. And this value is accumulative. So if you look
Yep.
at the value for one moment, it might not be much. But if you look for this value, let's say for 5 years, then you could say, okay, this is the return on the investment. And ROI is defined that you always have a timeline. How long do I look for that return and compare it with my investment? And that's also a problem because for these 5 years, when the value is accrued over time, then the project manager normally it's gone and maybe he's
Mm.
on another project in another company. So he is not longer helping to make sure this value is sustained. So somebody else has to be that. And this person is called the benefit owner. And they stay in the company for a long time. They have this role of owning this benefit and making sure that benefit doesn't deteriorate. So it has to be maintained, but also that the benefit is still creating value. And
Yeah.
eventually, maybe it's not, and you have to have the next version. It's important to understand what benefits are, in
Yep.
my view. And to be honest, there are different views from that, but mine are majorly built on the standard for program management of PMI.
Thank you for this detailed explanation and a lot of information you have covered there. And yeah, so it's a traditional way of measuring based on the talent, like triangle, time, cost, and scope and quality. And the shift is now towards the benefit management and benefit relation. And you mentioned about earlier, you mentioned about PMI talking about MORE, and that's also shift towards the value delivery for the customer and benefit for the customer. So the shift is very clearly towards the benefits, and benefit, of course, is what the customer perceive or whether they paid the money and they are getting the expected value or not from that. So that's the benefit seen by the customer. And the other thing you mentioned about the benefits are you may have outcome, same outcome, but may be seen differently by different stakeholders as a
Mm.
benefit. Some may see positive, some may see it negative as well. While it's positive for many, but negative for some as well. You put a factory, chemical factory in a neighborhood, and yes, we're going to make a lot of money, plastic, good chemical coming out. But what about the local communities, local environment? So that's the negative benefit for that.
Yeah.
So we'll continue to talk about the benefit and how do we measure success and a little more on that. Thank you.
Yeah. Maybe important to point out here is if we're talking about benefits and values and all this, and more MORE does suggest this, it isn't on the responsibility and capabilities of the project manager. So the concern about the how, the cost, and time and scope perspectives and measurements doesn't go away. So
Yeah.
if you start as a project manager, if you're a newbie, you come from university, you have your first job, your first project, you must practice these cost, time, and scope thinking. But
Yeah.
very soon you also have to extend it to the value view and the benefits view.
Perfect. All right. My next question is, what mindset shift do leaders need to make when moving from delivering project output to focusing on realizing measurable business outcome and the benefits?
Yeah, it's several shifts, and I think it also depends on where in your personal career and development do you start. As I said at the beginning, when you start project management, you must build the basic. Yeah, so the fundamental things a project manager has to understand, and that's very well described in the PMBOK guide when it's in the traditional terms. But always you can think from, did we deliver something, to did it create value? Did it create a benefit? And this thinking, the why, should be always in your mind, even if you are concerned about how are we delivering. Also, if you are an organization, you should shift your focus from project completion when you deliver your output into benefits realization or value creation. Because that normally starts after you delivered it, after you hand it over to operations or to somebody, then you have to be concerned about them. Can they really use the product well? Who is doing the organizational change management project? Who is training them? Who is giving them initial support and later support? So these are all things that has to be taken care of, and I think should be part of the scope of a project. And if not, maybe you are lucky and that project is part of a program, and then the program could have this organizational change management part in a separate scope. That's what I sometimes had in my own experience when I had a program of SAP rollouts across Europe, different countries. We also had one project that was jumping from country to country, doing the training and hands-on exercising of the new SAP system. So this was very important. What you also have to start thinking of from coming from your activity metrics. So last week we did this and that task and achieved these milestones and had this cost, into impact metrics. So I found it very interesting that I had a project when the project sponsor and project owner, who was from the business leader for HR actually, and they had a project which delivered some changes, and he created every month a PowerPoint slide to show to steering committee and to other stakeholders how the business benefits were affected by these changes. And this was a perfect thing. So he always had to argument, why are we spending so much money on this IT system?
Yeah.
And this slide was showing why. This was really explaining the why to his funders and to the people who approved this project. So yeah, there are a lot of things, but it's not so much a shift than that you have to have both sides in mind. So the ambidexterity of a project manager becomes more important, though, that you can, with the right hand, you can manage the product, and with the left hand, you can manage the value, or vice versa.
Yeah, this question is interesting because traditionally, lots of leaders are thinking from the delivery point of view, output, outcome, and they do talk about benefits during the business case. That's why in business case, we highlight, okay, this is output, outcome, and this benefit over a period of time. But many times, they just focus on delivery, get the work out. And when you ask them, have you delivered the benefit? Oh, yeah, but it's coming out and we don't have a tracking system. So shift is towards the leadership to think benefit. How are we going to identify them, track the benefit in benefit register, and have a benefit management plan, where you track, create the environment, get the owners, benefit owners to start using it, and make sure they are also, you're communicating to leaders. And leaders are aware how the benefits are coming along. So yes, we need to think from the benefit point of view, benefit-centric mindset, or customer-centric mindset, or value-driven. We are driving the value for the customer and for the organization. So my next question is, in many cases, project team lead deliver the outputs, but the business unit realize the benefit later. Who should truly own the benefit relation? And how should accountability be structured?
That's a very important question, because if you assign a responsibility and accountability for something like business benefits and the realization of that, it's a key thing that you know who is in charge. First of all, when you start an initiative, a project or a program, the business sponsor, the one who initiates the whole thing, who has an idea, who comes out of the business, he or she, they are in charge to see what value do they want to create, what strategic goal does it relate to, and then maybe break down the benefits a little bit more in detail and give that to the guys who are trying to deliver it, but also align it with the owners of the business unit. For them, they are introducing that new tool or whatever. And here comes now the problem. If you ask project managers also to be in charge of benefits, but they are not really the initiators of the benefits or the from the beginning involved in defining the benefits, then they have a problem with that. So that is also one of the differences between a program and a project manager. So a project manager normally is not involved in creating the business case, or maybe he is involved, but he's not in charge of it. But the program manager should be in charge of the business case and then should prepare it and sell it and let it be approved by the program governance system, maybe a steering committee or something like that. And in this, if we understand what kind of benefits are expected, are planned for, then we should assign also benefit owners. So specific people who are not the program manager, who are not the sponsor, but who are very knowledgeable about this specific benefit and not only define it, but also track it, how it is being developed, and make sure that once it is created and finished, then that it is transferred to operations, and operations can use it to create value in an ongoing way. So the business owner is responsible for a longer time period, a life cycle maybe of a benefit, while a program manager and even a business sponsor, they are most important during the lifetime of a program, which normally is shorter than a benefit lifetime. So that means also that the business owner, they must be somehow coordinated and somehow supported by the organization, and that's why governance also should be extended beyond the program, and governance should be extended to contain benefits government also. So all of this is very well described in the PMI standard for program management. It is not so well described in other benefits realization guides by PMI or by organizations in the UK. There are a lot of good people in the UK who are dealing with the concept of value and benefit management. Stephen Jenner wrote some books on it and is considered to be an authority, and that's very good. But I think it's really missing the point of a holistic view of the lifetime of such a benefit. And it's not only benefits realization, it's also benefits identification. How do I find benefits? And another aspect of that is if you look at a benefit that is identified and planned and expected and realized and transferred and sustained, how about benefits that are just being discovered during the program? These are the emerging benefits, and these are the benefits that are really important and sustained over years. Think about the reputation of the Sydney Opera House, where you're just in Sydney right now. This was not planned from the beginning. This was not expected, but it was emerging as the problems came up, and the Australians liked it. Or many other benefits that are just coming up while you are running the benefits and while you are running the program. Because if you are running the program, you get more information about the subject, and you get more into depth, and you say, hey, why shouldn't we do that? And that's another, because before we ask the question, what is a mindset shift? The mindset shifts from trying to implement a plan and what was perceived as valuable before we started, and then understanding, okay, here we have an opportunity to do something. That is normally not in the mindset of the project manager, because the project manager is concerned about delivering on promise. A program manager has a different promise. The promise of the program manager is to deliver on benefits. So if they find something during their work of a program, they should be very open and not too risk averse to look at this and try out if it will become a new benefit. And these are mostly the most beneficial programs. Let me give you an example, just recent example. There's a company in Germany who is dealing with cancer drugs, and they are looking at this mRNA usage to inject some drugs, and they will fight your specific cancer cells. And while they were doing that, benefit is very clear. Corona came along, and
Oh,
they thought about it that, okay, maybe we can use it for a corona vaccine. And exactly that was the case. So they developed the first corona vaccine, and it was based on the technology and the understanding of how this mRNA change could be used to create something to fight in your body. And they did exactly that. And so it's an emerging benefit which has been found because there was a change in the environment, corona, and there was a need for that. And they made, not only was this vaccine very successful, at least in the Western world, but also it created a lot of profits for the companies they teamed with.
yeah, no, very good example. When you're doing something and something else can be used, they use for something else. Oh my God, they got more benefits. So
Yeah.
when you start a project, you have some understanding, and as you go further, you may identify some more benefits which are emerging, and also some negative benefits as well. We have to appreciate that as well. Sometimes the negative benefit can be more than the positive benefit, then the project can be, or program can be stopped. So project team delivers output, but the business unit has to realize the benefit. Owned by business owner, like a benefit owner are the person or the group or the team who will be responsible for sustaining the benefit over a period of time. As the program manager, project manager, you can deliver the benefit, transition the benefit, they are the one who would sustain the benefit over many months and years. And some benefit while we can deliver during the program, like as a part of the program itself, while many programs deliver benefit at the end of the program, or sometimes benefit come after many years, like you plant a tree, like you plant fruit trees. So you have to look after them for many years before you start
Yeah.
getting the fruits. So that in this case, you have transition to the operations team, they're looking after the plants, watering, fertilizer, everything. And in 3, 4 years, 5 years time, they start giving the fruits. That's where the benefit coming. So yeah, so somebody has to be there, nominated or owner of the benefit, who is looking after the benefit relation.
Yeah, definitely. And it may even become later to that you have a company standard to do that. And this normally is supported by a kind of PMO, however you called it.
My next question is, how does program management help bridge the gap between organization strategy and the relation of benefits from projects?
First, when you identify that there should be a program and there will be expected benefits towards what? And you're looking at the organizational purpose, organizational initiatives. And let's say organization wants to get into a new market, wants to discover a new market in a new country. You will always have the idea for a program to be related to something that strategy defines or strategy identifies as a worthwhile area to explore. This is even the case in when there is something coming from the outside. Corona. Corona was for many companies a real challenge, but some companies grasped it and say, okay, Corona is not in our strategy yet, but the strategy is evolving depending on the changes in the environment, in the context. So I think you might have a strategy, but the strategy is much more short-lived often than, let's say, a program charter. And the alignment of a program with strategic thinking and strategic targets is of utmost importance. And so it's one of the performance domains in the program management guide standard to understand how can we align to the strategic objectives. And it's not a one-term time task because, as I said, with Corona and other things, the strategy might change depending on the context of the organization. If there's some change in regulation or the Strait of Hormuz is closed or whatever. And this comes from today to tomorrow. And people sometimes expect that the strategy is fixed for 2 or 3 years. It's not the case. You might have an idea what it should be, but
Yeah.
you must also be very flexible and adaptive to changes to the context. And that's done by the organization, hopefully. And then also by the program. And also the program, if the program is very innovative, it's a research and development program. And for instance, and so they are looking into one area, they might find out some opportunities for the organization. So it's not that the program has maybe to catch these opportunities and to include it in their scope, but it could just be that they find out an interesting opportunity for the full organization, which then influences the strategy again. So I've seen this with PMI, for instance. PMI had a strategy to globalize, and you have to set priorities, which countries come first, and depending on the criteria in these priorities, so they choose for Europe that Germany would be a good market. But the parameters that they're judging were market size and similar things, what you use as a product target market judgment. But for PMI, it's also, I think, very valuable to understand that in Germany there is a huge competition regarding program and project management because there is an IPA organization, GPM, and also Germany is a very fragmented market. When we talked with German government, we understood that there is no top-down directive regarding project management. So the Ministry of Defense is competing with the Ministry of Work regarding project management standards. And they like to be the best, though they choose maybe competition because they don't want to do the same as the other ministry. And so that's one thing even on the federal government level. But then if you go down into the states and you go down in the communities, municipalities, they also might have a totally different strategy regarding project management. So it's a very fragmented market. And it's not, you might choose other countries. So if you look at the UK, they have a very stringent top-down market regarding projects. They have a UK body who's since 30, 40 years, they are defining project management standards and so on. And has very much led to a good research base and a practice base. So they are looking, Ben Fleifberg, so the universities and the researchers in the UK are leading in project and program management research, but it's all dependent on the, let's say, paradigms of government. And you know what the paradigms of government are, for example, which are influencing how they can think?
Yep.
One thing is we use public money, yeah, and this public money has to be controlled. If you look at other organizations like the IOC, who is doing the Olympics, they don't care about public money so much.
Yep.
They say we will have a lot of funding bases, and in the end, our primary target, they don't say it like this, but the primary target is that the IOC makes profit. Yeah. And countries may suffer from that, and they do it willingly, but the main benefit is not profits for countries, it's reputation.
Yeah.
Reputation. We have the Olympic Games. So depending on the paradigms of the initiator, like the UK government leading these standards and the policies for projects and programs, and the IOC, who has a different purpose and strategy, then different ways of working in projects and benefits and programs comes up.
Yeah.
Extending.
Okay. So helping a project manager, program manager to learn the best practices, that's what we are here for. This question about how program manager is helping or bridging the gap between organizational strategy and realization of the benefits from the project. So as we know, projects are there to deliver. So deliver the output and outcome. So they can do that. But program manager has to have an overall picture, the visibility, how and when benefit is going to become, how and when the benefit is going to come. What do we have to do to realize the benefit? Do we have to do change management? Do we have to run a rewards recognition program or something else so that whatever output coming from the project can be first outcome and then realize the benefit by the organization?
If you look at the standard of program management of PMI, it very much aligns with my thinking about the answer to this question, because only program management can implement strategy, because then you focus on one strategic target goal and you create the expected benefits, you set up a program and then go for it. And if you look at the performance domain, we have the strategic alignment. That's the first thing, the most important thing answering this question. But you also have the benefits realization.
Yeah.
That is implementing that. You have this governance theme. So how does it fit into the whole
Governance, yeah.
organization? And you have the stakeholder engagement, which is basically monitoring the context of the program. Do we have something like Corona or other disruptions that have to be seen? And this is a part of the stakeholder engagement. It's not the same as the stakeholder engagement is defined in the project management world, but it's really different in the program management. And then let me look at the benefits again. What's important here? And why I think program management is more important than portfolio management to align the organizational resources to the right initiatives.
Yeah.
Because portfolio management has one target: to optimize the resource distribution across a set of projects with different looked at with different requirements. But this is not considering that we achieve a goal. And this goal is part of the project of the program charter and benefits case. That's why also some research is indicating that the success of program management is higher than the success of portfolio management in achieving strategic goals.
We do have more questions to go through for the same topic. We'll talk up in that in the next session. But for now, I think that's enough and we can wrap it up and see you again soon with the same topic and the many questions.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
Interesting topic.
It's an interesting topic, interesting discussion. And thank you all for watching. And hopefully you keep adding more and more for your knowledge. And also you continue to watch and learn from them. All right. Thank you very much. See you again. Bye.
Bye.